So a while back, I had this message on my vehicle console asking me to fill up my coolant, which is normal. It keeps happening every 3 months or 4 months, especially if you live in a hot country. Now, the surprising thing was the console said, fill up your coolant at the earliest possible. And when I went in and checked the coolant level, it was slightly above the minimum, and that's what got me by surprise. So immediately it led me to believe that the either there is a leak somewhere, or there was something wrong with the sensor or with the tank itself. And what I did was I immediately went in and poured in some more coolant, although this is not recommended at all. You need to keep it at the minimum because these tanks do heat up quite a bit and there's a lot of pressure while the vehicle is running. But either ways, I went ahead and filled it up a little bit more than the minimum, and I tried to run the car once again. Uh, but within a few short kilometers, the when the temperature was up to operating temperature, the message came back on. Now, I was certain that there was no leak because the coolant levels did not go down. So it had to be the sensor itself, or there was something wrong with the tank. I did not want to go ahead and replace just the sensor because there is a float inside the tank, and if at all the float has malfunctioned and it's not able to get its position on top, then again the effort was going to get wasted. So I went ahead and ordered the entire set, which is the tank and the sensor. It comes in a full set. Links are in the description below. I have given the names of the shops available in Dubai where you can find these parts fairly easily. Both these auto shops are amazing in their own way. Diplomacy mainly deals with BMW, Mercedes, and Rolls-Royce parts. You can message them on WhatsApp. I've given the number below. The man to reach out to is Mr. Sujith for BMW. So he'll give you a quote on WhatsApp itself. And the only issue with Diplomacy is that you need to go pick the part up yourself. They do not have any delivery options. They do not accept cards, so they do only take cash. Parking can be an issue in and around the area. The other shop is Al Nisr Al Thahabi. They are very good as well. They do deliver the part and they will send the card machine along. You can just order for the part. They'd be happy to deliver it to your location. Both companies are very competitive with their prices. So you can ask both of them for their prices and then see who gives you the better option before you go ahead and order your parts. Simply send them the part number. That should be good enough for them to identify the part. Or you can even take screenshots from real OEM, send it across to them, and they can identify the part number for you. And the install process is fairly straightforward. It takes no more than 30 minutes, provided you have all the tools at hand. I'm going to run over the steps that I had to do uh, to have this installed easily. Now, if DIY is not your thing or you have never done it before, then visit these guys, Car Code Performance. They mainly fix up BMWs. They are a tuning shop. They have amazing options to tune your vehicle and also carry out the regular maintenance. Their guys are fairly well versed with all BMW models. They service mainly only BMWs. Visit them. They are extremely good at their job. They know exactly what they're doing, and they'd be more than happy to help you out. So the first step that you need to do is to get the heat shield out of the way. There are two screws that you would need to remove, and I've highlighted the positions on the screen. Once you do that, the heat shield should come out fairly easily. The next step is to loosen up the water reservoir tank for your windshield wipers. The reason you do this is so that you can get a little bit more space to access the first screw for the coolant bracket. If you do not do this step, the bolt over there is going to be very difficult to reach, and will make your job a little bit more difficult. Before you move on to the last step to remove the tank itself, I would highly recommend that you drain the coolant, which is there inside the tank. You should get about a liter out of the coolant tank. Fairly easy to do. Just get a plastic tube in there, and siphon it out. Um, this would make your job so much more easier. Also, your engine needs to be cool while you're working on the coolant. I had to leave my car for 6 to 8 hours idle in the parking, and still the temperature was quite hot with the coolant. The ambient temperature was easily about 36 degrees at the time. So yes, do drain out the coolant uh, before you do this. There, if not, you're going to land up with an ugly mess, and the coolant is kind of a slippery liquid. You're going to have it all over your parking or your basement, wherever you have parked your car. You can avoid the step totally by just cooling out the drain by draining out the coolant, and it's going to take you just about a minute to do so. Once you're done, it's the final screw that's holding the tank in place. You need to get that screw out, and at the bottom you will also see that there is a small clip that holds onto the body, and this is what holds the tank in position. Go ahead and remove that screw, and the whole tank should be easily movable, and you can move on to the next step. You would now need to disconnect both the hoses. There's one on top and one at the bottom, and there is an electrical sensor, which is the level sensor itself. Um, to disconnect the hoses, simply lift the clip with a tiny screwdriver or a pin hook. You can just slightly pull it out, and the tube should be fairly easy to slide out. Do not wiggle this tube too much to get it out of the socket. They do have rubber washers in there. You don't want to damage anything or cause it to leak later. The easiest way that I found to do this was largely to use a screwdriver or a trim tool and push the pipe out ever so lightly so that it just pops out. Don't be worried, there'll be a little bit of coolant coming out of these hoses. Something that really helped me was to keep it slightly elevated from the engine itself. You can do this by just hooking it up or putting some kind of a cloth in there to keep it elevated so that there's no coolant drain. Once you're done with this, move on to the electrical connection. This is a simple pin. You can just press and pull the tab, and the connection would come out easily. If you're looking to only change the sensor, and you're certain that there's no issue with your float, you can reach the sensor pin without removing the tank itself. It's going to be a little difficult, but you can do it. You can remove the connection, twist the sensor, and it just pops right off. Alright, so after you've installed the new tank, the new sensor, the next step is to vent the system. The reason you would do this is while you're removing your old tank out, the chances of losing a little bit of fluid is there. You would have put in some air pockets into your entire cooling system. You would need to get all of that out. Again, it's a very easy process. What you need to do is start your ignition. Do not start your engine, just turn the ignition on. Turn the heat up all the way, and then you need to put your fan level at level 1 and press the accelerator pedal down for 10 seconds. You would need to do this while your coolant tank cap is opened, and you would be able to hear the water pump starting up. And what it essentially does is it runs the coolant throughout your closed loop system so that any air bubbles escape out of the open tank. It takes about 12 minutes to complete the entire process. Once that's done, top up your coolant to the min max level and replace your cap once it's done. And that's about it.